Hello, we're here with another race update. And it's a lovely evening here in Hobart,
beautiful.
and the wind has calmed down. It was sort of blowing a gale before. It's much calmer and lighter winds at the moment. Since our last update earlier today, there have been quite a few more retirements. So we've now got 23 yachts retired, 81 still racing. We've had 5 double-hander also retire. Sadly. And there's 18 double-handers still racing. So it's interesting to see the range of damage or range of reasons for retirements. Quite diverse.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of common ones, and I'd like, if you don't mind, Crosbie, to come back to that a bit later because I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and also I've got a few questions about it because there's some slightly mysterious ones as well. But it'd be good to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, we will come back to that. So let's back onto the race update. Let's start with the start of the fleet. In our last update, you were talking about Law Connect and how they might be soon reaching lighter winds and lighter airs. How's that tracking? And then can you also tell us a little bit more about what's happening further down the fleet?
Sure. Well, I'm pleased to say that my notion, or at least my idea, that perhaps they were going to get into some lighter air proved right. About 2 hours ago, they suddenly started parking up. They weren't fully parked up, but that light air was moving out from the coast. And what that really meant was that not only was it getting lighter, but what happens is it rotates counterclockwise in those light passage like an eddy. Mm-hmm. So the breeze then comes back very often from a southerly direction, even when it's been trending from, say, the north. And sure enough, that's what happened, because if you follow her tracker, she's tacked 4 times, I think, in the last 2 hours trying to get out. I've got a feeling she's got through that narrow bit, because the speeds when I last looked up were sort of like 13 knots. Celestial V70 is behind, very close behind, about 8 or 9 miles. She's just in it, and she was very light. Wild Thing 100's come a bit wide, but it's difficult to know. So there's still quite a lot to play for. You know, we could get a sneaky win here. Law Connect looking good, but yes, that's going to be interesting. For the rest of them, still pretty hard yards in westerlies, those that are still on the sort of southern end of the Victorian coast and so on, you know, probably belting into it a little bit. There's some relief in sight a bit further down, sort of another 24 hours and it starts easing up a bit, but still plenty on at sea,
Yeah, wow. So can we talk a little bit more about this damage? There's a couple of common things like damaged mainsails, rig damage, and I'm assuming this is due to the sort of heavy downwind running conditions. Can you explain a little bit more about this, please?
Spot on. So classically, rigging damage you'll get in any condition. So in a classic big southerly, rigs are always a bit of an issue. The things that you get going downwind typically, and we've had 3 of them, is dismastings. So what that usually has happened is, and it's always the fear and how you're trying to get the boat set up, is you go too fast into a wave, massive pressure in the load of the sails, and literally the whole mast just goes over the front. And that's very often why you don't get any injuries in that if you're lucky, and we've been lucky here. So 3 dismastings. The rig damage thing, again, in a lot of breeze. One of the big things, I think, mainsail damage particularly, and we had that experience in 97. Unfortunately, I was very slow for the reefing in the first really big southerly, and you can just tear the mainsail. It can happen anyway, just from sheer flogging at certain times. So what happens when you're reefing is the sail is unloaded, it's flapping and it's flogging, and you can literally, in an extreme wind, 40 knots, you can literally rip it in a matter of a minute or 2. So that's pretty common. The one I'm a little surprised not to see more of is steering damage. So in hard running downwind, you massively load up the rudder. The boat's sort of heeled, particularly the 2 rudder configuration, gets up, and there's huge pressure on the rudder and then on the steering quadrant, which is the sort of thing that controls it back up. Only one of those, I think, and then a variety of others, even an electrical fire. God, that's scary. But they're the ones you'd typically see in really hard running conditions. It's really, speaking personally, it can be very frightening in heavy downwind running conditions in a big sea, especially if you've got too much sail up.
Yeah, wow. Well, I feel a bit more educated now, thank you. And that engine fire is under control.
Was
just
under
to
control,
clarify, everyone's okay on boat, on the yacht, I should say. So thank you for that. Now, in terms of line honours, what time they're arriving, who it will be, it's a little bit unpredictable still at this stage. We're guessing line honours will be somewhere in the early hours of the morning.
Sort of 2 o'clock on-ish maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
Our favourite time, isn't
yes,
it? Yeah, we love the early mornings. And we will be coming to you live for that as well. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel and our Facebook, because Crosbie will be here with all his expertise, keeping us updated on line honours.
In the dark.
In the dark, yeah. So thank you so much. We'll talk to you later.